This is my extramural challenge, and I've tried to make it as if I was there with you, and the technology I've got to hand up here at the beach is my laptop and a camera that I'm recording myself on, so I hope this works out okay. Now, my subject is context art. Another way of calling it would be art words. And when I came up with this, a little visual, I guess I'd call it a word drawing, came to me, and so I'm just going to let you work your way through this, because I think it communicates what art words is about. Sculptor of Words, Mary Louise Brown, Words and Ideas in a Public Space. First saw Mary Louise Brown in Wellington, and it's a work in the Botanic Gardens. Her work particularly is social, sexual and psychological commentary, which is how things operating between human beings. Basically, it's a very, very wide concept and one that never ceases to fascinate me. Also, there's the play of how it looks and attracts you and keeps you engaged, and then it's where it's placed. Obviously, if it's outside, inside, that sort of thing makes a difference. So, and then the message behind it is that it stops you taking things for granted, and take a moment to think a little bit deeper about what that word actually means, what it's conveying. So this is the first work that I guess on the theme that she has worked in with plaques and slabs, which have a series of words that change by one letter. Apparently this was a parlour game, which she's obviously taken to another level, and not only is it the way the words change, but it's how they are placed. In this particular one, which obviously is about women's vulnerability in the social environments and the consequences of being attacked, is quite, I think, significantly placed on the ground. So I'll leave you to think about that, and also about the fact that you could walk over it. Bit of vulnerability, I think, is probably something that springs to mind there. This is the one from the Botanic Gardens, and yeah, I really liked this when I first saw it. So it's lovely to go back to it and actually go through all those words again, and you can visualise the running up and down of this staircase. It has different meanings. Obviously, going to the soul is soaring to heaven, and then the body is on the earth, closer to the ground, to your feet, is one way of looking at it. But yeah, I guess it also depends on the weather when you get there, or how you feel about it. It could be a positive experience if it's a beautiful sun-shining day, but if it's a really cold, horrible day, it would actually be quite, I think, poignant and remind you of perhaps death and our mortality. So yes, there's a lot that can be interpreted, and not just the use of words, but how they're shown here. This one I'm actually looking forward to seeing at the end of the week. It's up here in a vineyard in Matakana, and so this one sort of seems to go round the side of the hill, so it's a little bit more gentle, and I think it's sort of talking about the environment a little bit more, about how you feel being there, what the emotions are that come to mind perhaps by being in that spot. So again, using the idea of steps, but this one isn't quite as aggressive or traumatic perhaps. Yes, a wider and a little bit more sort of gentle. Then moving on, Mary Louise Brown's gone into working with painting on leather, which is quite an interesting surface. And this series, Love Token, again playing with words, but they're sort of all 4-letter words, and by taking those words out of context and just popping them there makes you think quite differently about what they might mean. Love, drug. For me, that word drug is kind of quite significant and makes you think about the addictiveness of romantic love and so on. So, and this one's really fun because it's on the wall, and so if you stand next to it, it makes us think about how critical we are of our bodies and how we want to have all these perfect descriptions, again 4-letter words, which in connection to each other and when positioning as they are relating to the body, sort of makes you feel a bit it sort of makes you realise how silly it all is, really. Anyway, this one I thought was really funny because you know the artist is including you in this work, and saying to you that because you're here, this is actually a work of art. If you weren't here, it's what is it? So the viewers and obviously the audience is really important. Anyway, there's a lot of other artists that are using this sort of text, and I thought I'd throw a few in here, and there's some references in your handout. Jenny Holzer is an American artist, and she's been doing a lot of projection on and using sort of twisting advertising and phrases, and uses light and neons and things like this. The one on the left actually amuses me because it looks like it's a church, and yet it's a very sort of sexy, sensual sort of message. So again, I'll leave that with you to maybe research a bit further. And another 2 New Zealanders that I thought were really great, following on from the text, but developing it in their own way. And I put these 2, I guess you use the word juxtaposed, these 2 images from Elliot Collins, because I thought they were quite funny. And apparently he holds these words, these series of words in his head for a long, long time before he actually puts them to paint, commits them to the way that he wants them to look. And this is a whole series that looks like it's they're all painted against fire, which I think I need to spend a bit more time thinking about that. And John Reynolds, another Kiwi who I came across actually this morning, who was featured in a home magazine, New Zealand Home New Zealand, I think it's an interiors magazine. I was talking about his studio, and it was quite a surprise to come across, and just trying to relax a little bit. Another artist who was using words that I hadn't heard of before, so now I've become quite obsessed with finding these artists. But what I love about John Reynolds, particularly the one on the right, is using the canvases and the paints all drip down the sides, and this particular one is like there's a whole lot of little cubes all stacked up, and I think you could find a lot of interesting little relationships between the words and the way that the words have been broken up. Leave a lot to thought, but also visually it's really fun, lots of colour. And then I thought I'd leave you all with something I'm going to explore for the next part of my challenge. And this is my own word series, inspired by a visit to Piha on the way north where my family live. And there's a lot of history in Piha. There's the iron sand, of course, the hot iron sand, and of course we all know about the danger in the water, but there's a lot of Māori history here, and a lot of death and bloodshed and issues to do with land ownership, of course. And so this series of words I've developed for myself, and I think I'll look into that as the next stage of looking into being a text artist. So thanks for listening, and I hope you've enjoyed it.